Just when America has reached a breaking point with division, visionary influencer Danni Benson's I'm Proud of You Sis bro movement taps into the pulse and heartbeat of a culture radically torn. But this loving mom's voice of reason and calm has received national recognition.
How'd you balance having your children and always traveling with the Yankee organization?
When I became a dad, I said that I would always love like a mother.
I feel like I have to hide certain things or act a different way because I know some people or some kids feel like they have to.
As part of the Chapters Network, Benson brings a weekly show aired worldwide on YouTube and Facebook, and her message is creating positive change. That's Wednesday at 6 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Hey, happy Wednesday, everyone. How is everyone doing today? I want to wish everyone a happy holiday. I know people are celebrating Ramadan. Passover is this Friday, the start of Passover, and it is Easter week. It's it's so weird, like how all these holidays are like all at the same time. But I just want to say happy holidays, everyone, and please enjoy your family this week, especially this weekend. But I want to talk to you today about loss, because during the holidays, it's like a really hard time for a lot of people, especially when they've suffered a loss that is like a family member or just a recent loss. So today we're going to talk about the stages of loss with Judy Foster. This show is dedicated to my producer Anna's brother Dustin Christopher, my sister who died of breast cancer at the age of 35, Sandra Tracy, and my dearest cousin Patrick Mompoint, who died COVID at a young age of just 40 years old, and his 2-year anniversary will be this Friday on April 15th. So many of us are dealing with this new normal after hopefully post-COVID. So I'm here to introduce Judy to the show so she could go through the stages of how to deal with loss. Hi, Judy. How are you today?
Hi, how are you?
I am great. How are you? How's everything with you? You look great in red.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me back.
Thank you. You were wonderful last time, so I had to have you back this time because we both have suffered loss, and we were having this conversation of like how to deal with it. You know, sometimes it's so painful that people say time heals all wounds, but I firmly believe that time doesn't really heal wounds. It just becomes like a new normal, like something that you just deal with, like, the pain inside. You never really forget the person that you lost.
Exactly.
So you're here to give us some advice so we could push through. So tell us, please tell us. I would love to know.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry for your producer's loss. This is something that we can all relate to. Everybody, every single human being on the face of this earth. I lost my mother 10 years ago, and still grieving at times. As you could probably relate, when you lose a loved one, you don't just grieve for a linear period of time and then move on. You learn to live with the feelings and cope with the feelings, and then you eventually move on with your life. I think I shared with you before that I was a hospice social worker for several years,
Yes.
and at a hospital out here in New Jersey. So I've done the inpatient and the outpatient setting. And I've spent years talking to dying patients, sitting with them while they're dying, and also talking to family members about bereavement and grief, anticipatory grief, which is what we're going to talk about as well today, when you know that somebody is dying, and just the feelings that you go through as you prepare for that loss. You feel like you can never do enough because it's just such a hard loss, especially if you lose somebody close to you. But I just want to start off by saying that grief is a part of life for everybody. And it's a psychological response to a traumatic event or a loss in our lives. It doesn't have to be a death, but it could also just be something that disrupts our ordinary life, our daily routine. And it causes discomfort to our stability. So it can be a death of a human being. It can be the loss of a pet. It could be the loss of a job or relationship. And it's important to note that all losses are significant, because just like how I noted relationships, there are a lot of people that look at certain things and think that they're insignificant to other people. They might say, oh, you're not over him yet, or, oh, you'll find another job. And so this is what stops people from wanting to show their emotions when they're going through something really difficult. We can't minimize what somebody else is going through, because we
Yes.
each react to loss differently.
Because you
So,
know why? Everyone's feelings are valid.
yes,
Everyone. So
ex-
it might be minute to you, but that doesn't change the fact that it's important to that person. So please
exactly.
respect anyone who's going through any type of loss.
Exactly. And we all grieve in different ways. That's the other thing. Some people are very stoic after a loss, and then some people are very emotional when they lose somebody. And we talked about this before, about going to therapy and crying, and just how society, really makes people feel like you can't express yourself because it's a sign of weakness if you are crying or if you go to therapy. And it's just the opposite, because if you don't let these feelings out, they're going to build up, and then they're going to come out in some other way. And so
And
when
most
we
times when it comes out, it comes out in the way of something negative. So
exactly exactly, especially with kids, because I think kids, can show a lot of irritability and anger when they get hurt, because they don't know how to show it just yet.
and sometimes I think humans too, you
Yes,
know, sometimes that's why they always say, try to be kind, because you never know what someone's going through.
that's right.
Because we
uh,
don't know, because I might be smiling right now and look super happy, but deep inside I might be dying. And I'm just
exactly
trying to maybe just do this show just to get through this show. And as soon as I turn off you know, the camera, I'm in the corner crying. So
exactly
we don't know what people are going through. So, the message today also, because it is the holiday season, please be kind to anyone and everyone that you're meeting, because you don't know what they're going through.
that's
A lot
right.
of people don't put their feelings on their sleeves. So just assume that if someone is having a bad day, just don't take it personal.
Exactly. I mean, there's no right or wrong way to grieve. People just need to do what they need to do for themselves. They can be stressed out, have anxiety, be anger, be sad. It's waves of feelings that you're going to go through for months, could be years sometimes. But, there is a process. And we'll talk about the 5 stages of grief, because it's a process that you go through when you lose a loved one, or you just suffer some type of loss. And it's really important to finish all of the stages of grief so that you can fully move on with your life, and process your healing and feel like you are healed when afterwards, after the 5 stages of grief.
And that's interesting, because my producer, Anna, hi Anna, she's one of the best producers on this earth. She A lot of people do this. Like, a lot of people give you like a timetable on your grief of
Yes,
loss. And when she lost her brother, people expected her, you gave her a year, and after a year, it's like, okay, you're still talking about this. You're still like, when are you gonna move on? And I would explain to her that it's your grief. You take your time, and you let the process, trust the process. And when it's time for you to smile again, it will happen. But no one has like a clock. Nothing is set to say, okay, a year from now you should be at this place. No, everyone has a different, like, marathon race that they're dealing with when it comes to grief. Some people get over grief the next day, like 2 days from now, they're like,
right.
okay, I'm fine. And other people take years. So that doesn't make you, something is wrong with you if it's taking you a long time.
Exactly. You have to listen to yourself and not let other people judge you or put you on a timetable, of where you should be, because nobody else can relate to that. Um, So I'm going to go over the 5 stages of grief. The first
Yes.
one being denial, because think about when you first hear that somebody's gone or you lost a job or whatever, you are in denial, which is a defense mechanism that acts as a buffer when you have unexpected, shocking news happen to you. And you don't want to believe it, because it hurts to accept a loss. So you don't want to believe it. You're in denial and you won't believe it. Sometimes people don't believe it till they see their loved one's body in the morgue. Um, so denial is the first stage, and anger is the second stage, where after we realize that there's a loss, we're angry. We're angry. And again, I feel like all of these are defense mechanisms, because it's anything other than sitting with your thoughts and knowing that there's a loss, knowing that this person is gone. So your brain is it tries to rationalize what's going on in the outside world so that it can make you feel better. So if I get angry and I blame somebody else, I don't have to deal with these feelings right now. So anger is the second stage of grief. And people could be angry at themselves, at the person they lost, if it's a loved one that died, and at God. People are mad at God because they feel like God took that person away.
Yeah, or God let them down, or maybe they were praying, like you said, you work at a hospice. Maybe they were praying for hope that this person might survive and
Yes.
not die at all. And then you're praying, and then when the person passes, the first person you're looking at is like, God, like I prayed so hard. Like, why would you just let this important person leave my life?
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yes.
completely understand how a lot of us do that.
Yeah, you're right. When it comes to kids, especially in babies as well, people don't understand why this would happen. If someone's 90 years old, you expect that they're going to die, and you can accept that a little bit better than you can if a child dies, whether it's
Yes.
an accident or an illness.
Wow. Yeah,
So,
definitely.
so definitely, I'm glad you brought up, like with hospice. I've seen people on their deathbeds, ready to die, and families still not accepting that the person is dying.
You know what? Because I was asking you, I was like, how can you even do? You're an amazing person. That's why I say I'm proud of you, sis. Because how do you even work in a hospice and actually watch people slowly die? Like, how do you rack it in your brain to make it okay where you don't freak out?
Yeah, it's not a job for everyone. A lot of my social work colleagues say that hospice is not an area they could work in, and I didn't think I could work in it either years and years ago, but it wasn't until after my mom passed. And she actually passed before she could go into hospice. And when I went through that with her, it made me want to help other people go through what I went through, because my mother had a terminal illness for several years. So it was a lot of anticipatory grief that I was going through, denial also. And so when I went through that with her and was able to get through it, I wanted to help other people get through that as well. And it is very difficult because I've been with people when they've actually passed, and I've been with family members who are distraught and besides themselves, and it's really, really difficult. So not everybody can do that. There's so many different facets in social work, and it was just something that I enjoyed because I really loved being there for people and helping them get through the healing process. But thank you for asking.
Yes. So okay. So after anger, what is the next stage?
So now is bargaining, which is trying to negotiate to get the person to come back, whether it's from a death or a loss of a relationship. And a lot of times people bargain with God. If you just bring them back, I'll do this. If you
Really?
get this job back, I'll do this. And it's just another part of the brain trying to rationalize, to keep the pain away for as long as possible. I don't want to
Because
accept yet the person is
because
gone.
I guess the brain is trying to not
Yeah.
want to
Yes.
understand that this is going to be if it's a death, it's a permanent thing. You
Exactly.
know.
Exactly. It's upsetting. It hurts, and nobody wants to feel that. So the brain is trying to still keep hope alive that something can happen and this person can come back.
And what's the next stage after bargaining?
Next is depression, which is where
Wow.
accepted the loss and we're now feeling sad about it. We are feeling depressed about it. We're having trouble eating and sleeping, and we have a depressed mood for most of the day because we have accepted almost, because the last stage is acceptance. We're about to get there. So we're about to say, okay, I accept it. Fine. I have to live my life. And you mentioned the new normal, because that is what happens when we lose something, or a loved one. Is now it's the new normal. How do we cope without this person in our lives anymore? How do we go on, especially if it's a partner? We kind of expect our parents to pass before us because that is the natural order of things, but we don't
But you
expect.
know what? Even though you expect your parents to pass, it still doesn't make it easy because you're so used to them, just being there for you. I wanna pay my respects to Nick Storm. Nick Storm, he just lost his mom. And I know how it feels to lose a mom. There's nothing in the world. I mean, Judy, we talk about this all the time. Like, there's nothing like having a mom. And even
Yes,
though if your mom nags you to death and annoys you, or sometimes you can't stand her, it's only because she loves you. So I tell people all the time, if you have a mom, please call your mom or your dad or your loved one. And even if they get on your nerves, or especially the ones that you're not talking to,
that's right.
life is unpredictable. We None of us know when we're exactly going to die, like the moment, the second, the day. And I tell people all the time, please, if you have any grudges, before you have to go through all these stages, please offer your forgiveness or ask for forgiveness, say you're sorry, love and hug, because it breaks my heart when the person actually passes and the person is looking at that person and wished, oh, I had so many things I had to say to you and I didn't say it.
That's
So
right.
I always tell people, say it now.
That's right. And people, we say this and people still don't do it. I mean, life gets in the way. We're all busy and we expect, because no one expects to die. It's like we know we're going to die, but we are in denial of that it's going to happen. It can happen anytime. And so, because I knew my mother was dying, we were able to have those talks. But when people die in accidents and things are unexpected, or even just diagnosed and then die quickly, you don't get that chance. That's why you should be doing it now. You should be saying all those things now.
Because
Um,
tomorrow is not promised. I know it's so
exactly.
corny when we say this all the time, but it's really not. Like, we
Right.
don't know. We take life for granted so much that we think that we have all this time.
Right.
And the irony is we don't even know how much time we really have left.
That's right. And especially when something like COVID happens, look at what happened. People lost multiple people. Family members lost sisters, brothers, mother. I mean, there were so many people that had to deal with multiple loss and not being able to be with them in the hospital, not being able to have funerals in person. I think there's just so many other facets to this that we have to deal with, on the spur of the moment. We just don't know.
So when
And
you so when
with
you I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say with the stages of grief, just to note that they don't have to be in a linear fashion. You can go in and out of the stages and go back to being depressed and going back to denial sometimes, even if you're past in the acceptance stage.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you that, can those stages be interchangeable? Because sometimes you go from denial to depression, and then you get angry after you depress because you're like, so it's good to know that, this is not, it's not like an exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, everyone processes those stages differently.
Yes. And processing them in a healthy way. I tell people try to avoid drugs and alcohol when this is happening, because all it's doing is covering up. You're not going through the healing process and allowing yourself to heal if you're doing drugs and alcohol or using something else as a quick fix. It's a pill people think they can just take, and I'm over it. And I don't want to deal with it because it hurts. But you can't do that, unfortunately. You can, but what happens is a year later, I don't care if it's 10 years later, it's going to come back at some point if you bottle it up and don't let your emotions just naturally come out, which includes crying and other things.
I mean, I wish every day I wish a pharmaceutical company could just make that pill that can just cure a heartbreak, just like they make Alka-Seltzer to cure, to help with your heartburn. I wish they can create a pill that can deal with your heartbreak, because loss is just so, it just takes a toll, out of you. It's just an emotional thing, especially when you're never going to see the person again, or especially when this is final. So it's not only a death, it could be a divorce, it can be a separation of a relationship, it could be, you've had an argument and you decided you're going to go separate ways. Loss is something that you need to go to therapy and talk about if you are finding it hard
Yes.
to, not to say move on for the grief, but actually functioning through your day.
Right.
If it's changing your function through your day, I think more. I think on a DSV-4, the psychologist book, if it's more than 2 weeks or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's important to differentiate between depression and bereavement, because we know why we're in bereavement. But depression, you could just have a chemical imbalance, and there are other criteria of, feeling worthless and suicidal for 2 weeks, and it interfering with your daily living. So two different things, but bereavement can lead into depression. It's just that you
Depression.
be impaired for a period of time for clinical depression to be diagnosed with someone. So, and you brought up the holidays too. Mother's Day is coming up, and other
Ugh.
holidays. People go
Father's
in.
Day is coming up. It's just, and these holidays come up year after year after year, and it's like you miss these people, your loved ones, so much. And I just wanted to like ask you, what can you do to prepare yourself for loss? Is there anything that you can do? Like, I'm all about preventative, like, not that you could prevent the loss, but is there anything that you can do to just maybe accept it? Because one thing I know is we're all going to die.
Right.
I mean, that's the one fact that I know for sure. We're all going to die. We just don't know when. So, is there anything that you could do to prepare yourself for when that time does come, or you can't even prepare?
Right. It's hard to prepare, because even if we do prepare, it still hurts just as much. And you made a good point about telling people that you love them, reaching out to people before things happen, because I think being proactive with that, you may be left with little or not as much regret if something were to happen to someone, which is, regret is just so prevalent with grief, because everyone has it. You always think that there was something you could have done better, or something you could have said, and maybe you could have prevented it, but that's not true. So right now we need to just tell the people who are in our lives that we love them, and be grateful for life while we have it, because we never know what's going to happen. And especially if you do know someone is ill, that's the time to, start talking to them, making arrangements, and it just feels a little bit better if you can do that.
I know that you lost your mom and you knew she was going to eventually die. So, how did you prepare yourself for that loss?
We talked about it. I was lucky enough that we were able to talk about it. And remember, I told you my mother was a psychotherapist, so
Yes.
we tried
Talk
to do
about your feelings.
good. I mean, it still was very hurtful afterwards, but we were able to actually talk about it, and we had
And
a
then
couple.
I don't want to get into your conversation, but
Mhm.
just to generalize, what did you like talk about? Like when you're watching your mom die and she's having a conversation with you, what are the things that you maybe that can help someone that's watching the show right now? What are the things that you bring up to talk about?
Yeah, one of the main things that I told her was to let her know that I was going to be okay, and that my sister and I were going to be okay. And that, to me, it makes me feel so good, because the loved one, you don't want them to feel, that's where the regret is that you don't want them to not hear something before they go. So by letting her know, and every parent, as a parent, when your kids are okay, you're good. So that was just something really important for me to let her know.
Wow, that's like great because my thing is I want to make sure they're okay.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's like when like just suffering like so many loss in my life. I'm always wondering, are they okay? Are they okay?
Exactly. That's all you worry about as a parent. That's all you want. That's what means the most to you. So she knew that, because I said it, and I felt like, okay, I'm good now. I mean, I still don't want anything to happen, but and I just believe in therapy. I'm going to put up some resources on my Instagram, J Foster LCSW, just to,
Mhm.
because I wanted to do this last time as well, just some mental health resources also for the Black community, and a couple of hotline numbers, and just for people to know that there is a lot of resources out there when you're going through something like this.
And then like loss is just it happens like in I guess in all communities because at the end of the day we are all humans. We all bleed red.
Hmm.
No one is better than the other person. No race is better or religion is better because guess what? We all die. Don't
Right.
matter where you come from. We all die and we all suffer
That's
and
right.
we all have sadness in our hearts and we all want our loved ones to be okay like you said.
Right.
And I respect your courage because I can't even imagine my mom dying and knowing like she's not going to be here for the next couple of months. I don't know what's better when it comes to suffering loss. I don't know if I want the instant, like, boom, like, oh my God, the person is not here no more. Or do I want the, I know she's going to or he's going to, so let me just spend my time with that person while they are here on this earth.
A
I
great
guess
point.
I don't know which. Honestly, I wish I could live forever. Like I always say, I'm forever young, forever 21. You
Right.
know, like my personality is like happy all the time. But I know eventually, like my daughter asked me that question, "Mommy, how old are you gonna be when you die?"
Mm,
I didn't even
right.
know what to say to her,
Exactly.
and
It's
I
tough.
feel so bad because she's so little and she's 8, and
Yeah.
I think it's probably like the first time I lied to her. I was like, "Mommy's gonna be here forever. What are you talking about?" I
Right.
couldn't.
Right.
I didn't even know what to say. Like it came out of nowhere. Like, mommy, because she thinks I'm 21, so she's like tackling the years. She's like,
Well, you look it.
mommy, what? You're 21, 22, 28, you know? And then she's like, so when are
Yeah.
you gonna die? And I'm like, oh my God, I had to give like a far number from 21. So I said like 115 or something like that. She's
Exactly.
like, oh, she's like, great, mommy, we have a long time to go. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I
You
don't
do. It's
even
age
know.
appropriate.
How do you explain that to children? Like,
You
how do
have
you
to what their age appropriate for them. I mean, you don't want to scare them and tell them, because then what happens is kids then think that they're going to die. Once you start talking about how, yeah, you could die tomorrow, so could I. You don't want to tell that to a 5-year-old. You want to make it age appropriate. And sometimes we'll talk about, the going to heaven or, going to sleep. It depends. Really, every parent has a different style with there's no set way to talk to your child. People have to do what they feel is right, but it's age appropriate, and that's one thing I can say that goes across the board.
So okay, I did a good job then as a mom because I didn't want because I know my daughter sometimes she has anxiety and fear, and I felt like if I said, "Hey, I could die anytime," then she would just freak out. Like, what do you mean anytime, mom? That means you could die tonight when I'm sleeping. So I didn't want to like make her
It,
feel overwhelmed because she's only 8 years
exactly.
old. So I try to
Yep.
like not really like lie to her, but just say like, "Don't worry, mommy's gonna be here," And I told her if mommy's not here and if you can't see mama, just know that mama's spirit, mama is always going to be right by your side. So if you can't see me, I told her you can always talk to me. Always.
Exactly. Exactly. And parents use videos too now where you make videos. I mean, God forbid if something were to happen. I've seen people make videos for their kids for when they get older. Watch this when you're 10, watch this when you're 15, when you're 20,
Really?
I've seen people leave videos to their kids and they obviously you do the video in advance for when they're getting married, when they're graduating from high school,
Oh
and
my
people are able to watch. And that's just something really amazing. Just the thought that people want to do that.
I
It's
I
free.
love I love that. I love that idea. I think I'm going to start that idea with my two twins. But Judy, I so appreciate you coming here. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming on. I'm proud of you, sis. You are so amazing. I love picking your brain with all sorts of topics. I can't wait for you to come back again next month. But thank you, everyone,
Yeah.
for joining. I'm proud of you, sis. See you next week and have a great holiday with your loved ones. And thank you for joining us thank you for joining us in talking about the topic about loss. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.